Hi everyone. I'll wait until a few more people sort of come into the session. Cool. So today what we're going to be doing is we will be looking at alternate and corresponding angles, and a little bit as well about congruent triangles. Today's session is going to be an hour long, and I will be the tutor going through the session with you today. My name is Evelyn, and I've been a tutor on MyTutor for a while. I'm studying towards my University of Birmingham. So I'll wait for a few more people to arrive, and then we will get started. Cool. So just to recap everything that I've said so far, guys, we're going to do an hour session today on alternate and corresponding angles. So before we start, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go through a recap of what we did last lesson in our foundation math session. So we were looking at bearings and geometric problems. So bearings are just angles which tell you where to go. So you always measure them in degrees from the north line. So there's 3 rules which we all need to remember for bearings. So they always must go from the north line. So you measure from the north line clockwise, and you always give it to 3 digits. So if you wanted to go 90 degrees, you would write 090. Always make sure that there are 3 digits. Now, we also went through a few tips to help you answer problem-solving questions as well. So first of all, think, what do you have to do? Make sure you read the question, make sure you understand it, you underline important parts. Then you need to consider what info do I need? What maths do I need to do? So make sure you know what sort of topic, what equations, what sort of techniques you'll need to do to actually answer these questions. Always make sure you check the units. They are usually there to trick you, or not trick you, but catch you out, to make sure that you're paying attention. And always make sure that your solution is correct. So always check your answer at the end, or come back to it afterwards and make sure that you've done all your calculations correctly and you've left your answer in the right form that they want you to. So let's go through a few questions. I think there's 2 questions here, just based on what we did last lesson. So the first one is on bearings. So here we have a diagram showing a farm at point F and a bridge at point B on a map. They've asked us to measure and write down the bearing of B from F. Now, obviously on a computer, it's a little bit difficult to do that, but instead, I can show you how you would do it if this was an exam. So first of all, the most important thing answering bearing questions is knowing what the first, what your starting point is and what your destination point is. So your starting point is F, because it says from F. So you start at F and then you move all the way to B. So B is your destination. So what you have to do is you now have to measure the angle from the north line at your starting point between this line and this line here. So all you have to do is measure that angle. Now, with a protractor, always make sure you're measuring angles with the protractor. Don't judge it. Make sure that you do check, because it does tell you to measure. If you put your protractor like this, so most of your protractors are sort of like half or semicircles. So if you put your 0 line over here and then measure how many degrees away from 0. So make sure you put your 0 on your north line and measure. And it should be something like 55 degrees you'll get for this answer. So you just write 55 here. So always make sure you measure your angle from the starting point, from the starting point's north line, all the way to the line connecting your starting point and your destination point. Now, the next question is saying that there's a church C, which is on a bearing of 155 degrees from the bridge. So on the map, the church is 5 centimeters from B. So here there's two things which we need to do. First of all, we need to draw the angle, and then we need to draw the correct distance. So first of all, let's try and figure out where the angle 155 degrees is from bridge B. So bridge B is our starting point. And now we want to find out where is 155 degrees away from point B. So remember that you have to measure from the north line and clockwise. And one thing that I've even forgotten, which I'd like all of you to pay attention to as well, is that I've made a very common mistake that everyone usually makes, is I haven't left my answer here to 3 digits. So you have to remember to put 0, 5, 5. Always leave it to 3 digits. So that's a common mistake. Make sure you don't make the same mistakes that I'm making. So going back to part B, what we'd like to do is we like to measure 155 degrees away from this point. So we start at our north line and then we measure using a protractor going round to 155 degrees. Now, obviously I don't have a protractor, but make sure that you do use one. I would say it would be around this point here, or maybe around here, somewhere here. So all you need to do is, if I use a different color, just draw a point where you find your 155 degrees. Because the next thing that we have to do is find how far the church is away from bridge B. Now they've told us that it is 5 centimeters from bridge B. So all we need to do now is draw a line, a straight line that goes from bridge B through the point that we've drawn at 155 degrees, which is 5 centimeters long. So draw a line, and make sure you use a ruler for this part, make sure it's straight and make sure that it is 5 centimeters long. And then all you have to do is leave your answer to the correct, in the correct way that they want you to leave it. So they said mark it with a cross and label it C. So make sure that you do all those things in order to get 2 marks. If you don't mark it with a cross and you don't label it C, but you've drawn the correct line going through the correct point, you would only get 1 mark. Make sure you always do leave it the way how they ask you to. So if we have a look at this recap question for a second as well. So we have a diagram and it shows a floor in the shape of a trapezium. So John is going to paint the floor. Each 5 litre tin of paint costs £16.99. 1 litre of paint covers an area of 2 meters squared and John has £160 to spend on paint. Has John got enough money to buy all the paint he needs? And you must show how you get to your answer. So this is an example of a geometric problem solving question. It's to do with area, and a lot of students sort of get a little bit confused with these sort of questions. The reason why is because there's a lot of information. So take it step by step. First of all, read the question, understand what you need to do, and then figure out what is the first thing that I should do? What can I do? What maths can I do with this question? So first of all, we know that each 5 litre tin of paint costs £16.99. They've told us that here. Now, 1 litre of paint covers an area of 2 meters squared. So what we could do is we could consider, if 1 litre of paint covers an area of 2 meters squared, each tin covers 5 litres. So how much would 5 litres cover? So if 1 litre equals 2 meters squared, 5 litres, which is what they've given to us in each tin, would just be, you multiply it by 5, so it'd be 10. Perfect. So we know that 5 litres will cover 10 meters squared area of the floor. Now, the next thing that we need to do is actually work out how much is the area of the floor that we need to paint. So we need to remember our formula for a trapezium. So if I write this one in black, so area of a trapezium, if everyone remembers, we did go through this last week or the week before, I think. It's half times A plus B multiplied by your height. So in this case, remember your A and your B are your parallel lines. So what we're going to be doing to work out the area of this shape is a half multiplied by, now A or B, as long as you're using both of these lengths, you just add them together. So we've got 10 plus 16 multiplied by 7, because that's our total height. Always remember, you want your vertical height and not your slant height. Okay. Perfect. So some people are asking, so one person is asking, is it a trapezium? Yes, it is a trapezium. You've got one set of parallel lines, and you're given your vertical height and your length of your parallel line, so you can work out the area of the trapezium. So to work this out, we just need to now calculate what is this area. So let's do a half multiplied by 10 plus 16 multiplied by 7. So if you're using a calculator, remember to put your brackets. Remember to put your brackets in. If you're not using a calculator, remember BIDS maths. So always remember brackets come first. So in this case, we have 91 meters squared as our answer for the area of the trapezium. So now if I zoom out a little bit, so now we know how much area we need to cover. Now we just need to work out how many tins of paint do we need to actually cover this area. So we know that each tin of paint covers 10 meters squared. That's what we calculated before, because we have 5 liters in each tin, and each tin will cover 10 meters squared. So how many tins do we need? So in this case, if we had 9 tins, we would be able to cover 90 meters squared, but we'd also have 1 meter squared that's not covered. We need to cover everything. Now you can't have half of a tin. You can't buy half of a tin or a quarter of a tin. So we need to just buy one more. So we would need to buy 10 tins. So if I do this in purple, so we've got 10 times 10 meters squared equals 100. Yep, equals 100 meters squared. So this will definitely cover 91 meters squared. So that means you need 10 tins. Now, the last thing that we need to do, because remember the question is asking us, has John got enough money? So we need to calculate how much will 10 tins cost. So we do 10 multiplied by 16.99. So you should get £169.90. Now, they've told us that John has £160, but we need £169.90 to buy enough tins. So no, he does not have the correct amount of money. And always remember, when you're answering these questions, just be a little bit more specific and say how much he needs more, how much money he needs extra to purchase what he needs to purchase, or how much is he short by. So you could say, no, he is short of £9.90. Yeah, and that will definitely get you the full 5 marks. So does anyone have any questions? So yes, guys, we will be doing a quiz at the end, don't worry. But does anyone have any questions about anything that we've done on bearings or geometric problems? If not, we will move on. Okay, perfect. So let's move on to alternate and corresponding angles. So hopefully all of you are sort of familiar with angles on parallel lines and straight lines, but as a recap, we will be going through all of those today. So we're going to be going through how to apply important properties of angles, around a point and on a straight line. We're also going to go through how to use and understand important angle properties on parallel lines, and what are congruent triangles and how to answer questions involving them. So let's start with angles around a point. So angles around a point all add up to 360 degrees. So as we can see on the right, we've got 97 degrees, 157 degrees and 106 degrees. If we added it all up together, we'd get 360. And then on the left, we have a question. So what is the angle of A? Now here, all you need to do is add up all the angles that they've given you and then subtract it from 360 degrees. So 81 plus 92 plus 100. If we add all of that up together, we should get 273 degrees. And now I want to find out what angle A is. Since we know that angles around a point add up to 360 degrees, we just need to find the difference. So we'll do 360 degrees minus 273 degrees, and this gives you 87 degrees. So my answer, angle A, is going to be equal to 87 degrees. So hopefully that's just a recap for angles around a point. Now, angles on a straight line. Angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. So as we see on the right, 135 plus 45 gives us 180. So on the left, we have another question. What is the angle X? So to work this out, we're going to use the same sort of method we did with the one on the previous slide. We're going to add 32 and 81 together. Oops. 32 and 81, so that will give us 113 degrees. And then we want to work out what angle X is. So we work out the difference between 180 and 113. And this gives us 67 degrees. So angle X will be 67 degrees. Now bear in mind, any of these questions can come up in a calculator or non-calculator paper, because it is mainly just adding and subtracting. So let's have a look at the next slide then. So this one is also another property that everyone has to remember. So vertically opposite angles are equal. Now, this one sort of stumps some students. The reason why is they always forget to write down this particular word, vertically. You have to write vertically, otherwise you will not get the mark in the question. Now, some people might be saying, but sometimes the angles aren't vertical towards each other. I know, like say the one on the left, it's not, but we call them vertically opposite angles. So always remember to use the vertical, use the word vertically opposite. So on the right, we can see anything which is sort of opposite to each other, they're equal, as long as they're separated by straight lines. So if you have one straight line here and another straight line going through here, then the angle here and here will be equal, 75 degrees, and angles here and here are equal at 105 degrees. So if we look at the one on the left, we have one straight line and another straight line. So we have opposite angles, vertically opposite angles, so they must be equal to each other. So in this case, y is equal to 29 degrees. Yes, vertically opposite angles are always equal. So as long as you see a vertically opposite angle, they are always going to be equal. So let's have a look at the next one. Now this one is probably one which everyone sort of recognizes, but maybe forgets the keywords for. So some of you in school might have recognized them as, like, say, Z angles or F angles. You're not wrong, they are Z angles. you do have like a C, some people call it a U angle. They're exactly the same. And then you have F angles, but in your exam, if they ask you what sort of angle is it, never write Z, C, or F angle. Always write the correct terms. So these are put in bold at the top. So if you see a Z shape, the angles in the corners of the Z are equal to each other, and we call them alternate angles. Yeah. In a C shape or a U shape, the angles in the corners again, they're not equal to each other, but they add up to 180. So this one is important. Always remember they add up to 180, and we call them co-interior angles. Now, some of you in school might have recognized them as allied angles. Those are exactly the same. If you write allied or co-interior, you would get the mark, but it would have to be one of those two words. And the final one, the F angle, again, the ones in the corners here and here are equal to each other, and we call them corresponding. So these are quite important to remember. Definitely important to remember the keywords, because those are what you'll be tested on, not only recognizing them, but being able to write them as well. So let's have a look at these example questions. So the first one, what is angle E? So first of all, can I see a shape that can I see a shape that I could maybe use to help me remember what to do with this one? And there is a Z shape. So I could draw a Z like this. In your exam, if you feel more comfortable drawing in the Z or drawing in the F or the C, it's completely up to you. It helps you figure out what angle it is. Absolutely fine. Just remember, write down the correct reason and don't write down the letter as like Z angle, C angle. Always write down the correct words. So since we're looking at the two corners, we know that these are equal to each other. So E is going to be equal to 63 degrees. And since it's the Z shape, we call this alternate angles. So this is an alternate angle. Now, if they ask you, in this question, they haven't asked you to leave a reason. But if they do ask you to leave a reason, make sure you give a full reason. Don't just write down, like say, oh, it's an alternate angle. Make sure you write down alternate angles are equal or corresponding angles are equal. Make sure that you write it down fully. Don't just write alternate angles, because sometimes they can be a little bit picky when they're marking exams. So if we look at the second one, what is angle F? So in this case, we can draw the letter that we see in this shape to here, sort of see like a sideways F. So in this case, we know that the angles in the corners are equal to each other for the F shape. So we know that this angle F is equal to 125 degrees. And also, these angles are called corresponding. So just to remind you, F is corresponding. Corresponding angles. Okay. And then the final one, what is the missing angle? So the one at the question mark. So here, this looks like a C or a U shape, depending on how you guys remember it. Remember, the ones in the corner, they are not equal. They add up to 180. So it's going to be, so to work out that one, we just need to work out the difference between 180 and 93. If I use a calculator just quickly, we've got 87 degrees. So this missing angle is 87 degrees. And remember, this is co-interior angle, or I'll write it in a different color as well. Some of you were asking if there was another word for co-interior. You could have said allied as well. Allied angles or co-interior angles. One of the two is absolutely fine to write in your exam. So are there any questions? Perfect. So just to just to let you guys know, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A. If you're answering the questions, put them in the chat, just so I can distinguish a little bit between questions and question and answers. Okay, so let's go through an example question. Hopefully this clears up any doubts anyone might have. If you do have any really important questions, put them in the Q&A and I'll try and answer them for you. So first of all, we're given a set of different lines and they've given us the angle at GEF. Now they've told us that ABC and ABC and DEF are parallel lines, BEG is a straight line, and angle GEF is 47 degrees. Now, they've asked us to work out the size of angle marked X and also to give reasons for our answer. So for each angle that you work out, because you're going to need to work out more than one angle for this question, make sure you put the reason next to it. Now, there are multiple different ways of doing it. Some of you might do it a little bit differently from how I'm going to do it, but as long as we get the correct answer and you write down the correct reasons for each answer, you would get full marks for the question. So let's start. So the first thing that I can sort of see is that there's multiple different ways, but what I want to do is I know here that I can see vertically opposite angles. So I know that this angle is going to be equal to the angle that they gave us. So if I use different color pens, I can say that angle, remember to write your angles properly as well. So the way how they always write them is the angle at that particular point, they put that letter in the middle. So here this would be DEB. So angle DEB. So angle DEB equals 47 degrees. And then we have to give a reason. Why do we know this? Because vertically opposite angles are equal. Okay, in able to get full marks for the questions, make sure you write down your reasons correctly. It's okay if you don't write them in a sentence like this as well. It's okay if you write them in bullet points. Just make sure you're matching your reasons to the angles appropriately. So it's not okay to just write angle there, like at the bottom of the screen, and then your reason at the top. Because otherwise examiners know what reason is for which angle. So make sure that you don't give them any doubt in your knowledge. So we know what this angle is going to be. We know this angle is 47 degrees. So the next thing to work out what angle X is, because that's what the question is asking us to do, I can see a C shape here. It's sort of like a backward C. And what I know about these two angles in the corners is that they add up to 180 degrees. So I know that in order to work out X, what I'll have to do is I'll have to do 180 take away 47. So 180 take away 47 is 133 degrees. So the final thing that we can say is X equals 130 degrees, because now remember the reason for these C shapes or U shapes, it's co-interior or allied. So I could write either co-interior or allied. So I'm going to write co-interior because that one's a little bit more popular. Because co-interior angles, now they are not equal, they add up to 180 degrees, and that would be a final answer, and that would gain full marks in an exam. So you get 1 mark each for getting the correct angles, so for getting 47 degrees and 133 degrees, and then you get a mark as well for each of your reasons. So this question is 4 marks in total. Right, does anyone have any questions? Perfect. I'm glad people are enjoying this so far. No problem. I will quickly go back to vertically opposite angles just so you can look at that one again for a second. So that is just for everyone else, that is angles on parallel lines. We are going to go through congruent triangles in a second. I hope whoever was asking for the vertically opposite angle slides, you've been able to write down the important parts of it. Remember guys, it is recorded and it is going to be put on the MyTutor YouTube channel. So if you do need to go back to it, if you've missed anything, you can definitely go there and check anything that you've missed, or watch it again if there was anything that you didn't understand and you'd like to go over again. So I am going to move on now to the next part of the session. So just a quick recap on triangles before we go on to congruence. Remember, angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So on the right, we have 48 degrees, 109 and 23. If we add them all up together, it equals 180. No matter what triangle it is, it could be an equilateral, right angled, isosceles, scalene triangle, doesn't matter. It will always add up to 180 degrees, the angles inside of the triangle. So here we've got on the left a blue triangle, and we want to work out the angle A. So what we need to do is treat it like the other questions that we were doing. We're going to do 40 plus 60 degrees. We get 100. And then we're going to work out the difference between 180 and 100, which is just 80 degrees. So A equals 80 degrees. So that's how you would work out missing angles in a triangle. So hopefully that's just a recap for everyone, because we are going to move on to something a little bit different. So here, angles in a triangle, you can have different triangles, as I was saying before. Equilateral triangles, you have 3 equal sides and 3 equal angles. So remember, in an equilateral triangle, it's always 60 degrees. Now, the reason why it's always 60 degrees is because each of them are equal, and angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So you just divide it by 3 and you get 60. Okay. If people, so page 11, some people saying it's confusing. Angles in a triangle just all add up to 180 degrees. So if you wanted to find out a missing angle, you add the other 2 angles. Here it was 100, and you just take it away from 180 to find out the missing one. So if you were to do 40 plus 60 plus 80, you get 180. So hopefully that's not too confusing for anyone. If it is a little bit confusing, make sure to go to the YouTube channel after this session to find it, because we do need to move forward. We don't have much more time left. So the isosceles triangle, you always have 2 sides which are equal and 2 base angles which are also equal. And scalene triangles don't have any equal sides or any equal angles. So that's important to remember as well. So we will come back to a question on angles with triangles at the end as well. But just to get through the actual content for congruent shapes, we're going to move on. So some of you might have and might not have seen congruent shapes. All congruence means is identical. So if you have 2 shapes which are congruent, that means they're identical in size and in shape. So if we look at the first set of shapes, if we look at the yellow squares, these are congruent. They're identical in size and they're identical in shape. If I put one on top of the other, you wouldn't see any difference. They're exactly the same. Now, if we look at the blue arrows, they are not congruent. They're not identical in size or they're not identical in size. They are the same shape, but they're not the same size, so they're not congruent. Now, if we look at the pink triangles, these two triangles are congruent. The only thing is, the second one is just turned on its side. So they're exactly the same size, they're exactly the same shape, they're just in different positions. So if you can take shapes and move them around or flip them, as long as you're not making them bigger or smaller, they will remain congruent. They will remain exactly the same. However, the green shapes on the bottom right, they are not congruent. One is a circle, one is an oval. Okay, they're not the same shape. However, they might be the same size, but they're not the same shape. So remember, congruent is always identical in shape and size, or size and shape. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense. We are going to go through some examples with congruence, but the important thing is to understand congruent triangles, because here you have certain criteria which you need to follow. So first of all, there are 4 different criteria which you can use to check whether triangles are congruent or not. They can either have 3 equal sides, so as long as all the sides are exactly the same length, then the 2 triangles would be congruent. You could have 2 sides and an angle between the 2 sides. As long as they're equal to each other, your 2 triangles will be congruent. The same thing with if you had 2 angles and a corresponding side, or if you had a right angle, a hypotenuse, and a side. Now there's more information and detail for each one, which we're going to go through now. So side, side, side. So sometimes we write down the reason as just the letters of the first word. So side, side, side would be SSS. So as long as all 3 of your sides of the triangle are equal in the 2, they would be congruent. So if we look at this example, we've got 4, 5, and 7. Here we've also got 4, 5, and 7. They are exactly the same shape, only turned around in different ways. They're exactly the same shape and same size, so they are congruent. Now, if we have a look at SAS, this is side, angle, side. Now, always remember, your angle must be between the 2 sides that you're measuring. Yeah, so if we look at the example on the right, your 49 degrees has to be between your 3.6 and your 7.1. Now, as long as that is true, you have 2 congruent triangles. They're exactly the same. They have 2 sides which are the same and an angle between them which is the same. So they're congruent. Now, the other one that you could have is ASA. So you could have angle, side, angle. Let me zoom out a little bit more. Right, so here you could have 2 angles and the sides linking the 2 angles, or you could have another 2 angles and another side. It doesn't matter as long as in your shapes they are the same part of the triangle. So if we look at the first one, we've got this side, oops, if I use a pointer, we've got this side here and it's between our 2 angles, that's fine. And here we have exactly the same thing. We have our 2 angles and the side between them. So these 2 triangles would be congruent. Now for the next one, we've got our 2 angles and the side opposite are 76 degrees. Now on the other triangle, we have to have the same thing. We have to have the same side, which is opposite that 76 degrees. So here we have our 15 opposite our 76 degrees, and we have our 42 degrees as well. So here, these 2 triangles are congruent. Now, all it means by corresponding side is the same sort of side. So it's what I just explained. You have to have this side opposite a particular angle, exactly the same in both triangles. So hopefully you understand that part as well. Always make sure it's the same part of the triangle which you're matching to each other to make sure that they are congruent. Now the last one that we are going to look at is this one here. So right angles, hypotenuse and side. So as long as you have a right angle, a hypotenuse and one side of your triangle, then you can tell that they are congruent or not. So here we've got a right angle and we've got a hypotenuse, which is, your hypotenuse is just the longest side of your triangle. It's always the longest side. It's always the one opposite your 90 degrees. So it will be this one. And then any side, so it could be this one or this one. In this case, we've decided to pick our 5.2. Now here we've got our 90 degrees, our hypotenuse, and our 5.2 again. So these two triangles are congruent. Now for your foundation exam, you just need to be able to spot them. You need to be able to spot the correct criteria. So is it 3 sides? Is it 2 angles in a side? Is it 2 sides in the angle? Or is it a right angle, a hypotenuse, and a side? And just like the angles one, give your reason why. Say that, oh, if you have 3 sides, then your triangles are congruent. Now, one thing to remember is this part here. Do not use angle, angle, angle. So many students always forget this part. Try not to forget it. It's really important. Do not use angle, angle, angle. Having 3 angles is not enough information to tell us that triangles are congruent. It doesn't tell us whether they're congruent or not. If we look at the 2 triangles that we have here, it might be a bit more difficult to tell. I'll zoom in a little bit more with these triangles, but they're not the same size, these two, but they do have the same angles. This side here is shorter than this side. The same thing with this one and this one. They're shorter than the other sides in the triangle to the right. They're not congruent because remember, congruence, it has to be exactly the same size and exactly the same shape. It's the same shape, just not the same size. So angle, angle, angle is not a criteria for congruence. Now, does anyone have any questions on anything we've done today before we go on to the Kahoot quiz and before we go on to some exam questions? So on the quiz, we're going to be going through everything that we've gone through today. So angles, alternate and corresponding angles, and also triangles. Yes, if I'll go through some of these questions I will answer at the end because they will be important towards the end of the lesson. But someone really wants me to go on the side angle angles part. So I will do, and I will also explain what a hypotenuse is as well. So the side, all 3 of your sides have to be equal. Remember, it is recorded, so if you do want to take notes, if I am going a little bit too fast for you, you can go to the YouTube page to look at it. Don't worry. I hope you've managed to write down whatever you were writing down, just so I can answer someone else's question as well. A hypotenuse is the longest side in your triangle. That's what a hypotenuse is. Now, when you're talking about right angle triangles, your hypotenuse is always the one opposite, if I use the pointer, is always the one opposite your 90 degrees. So if you're given your 90 degrees, your hypotenuse is the one is the side opposite your 90 degrees. So hopefully that answers your question. Now, if any of you do have any important questions, put them in the Q&A. If you do want to look at some more slides, make sure you go onto the YouTube, the MyTutor YouTube channel to look over anything that you might have missed. We are going to go on to the Kahoot quiz now. I encourage everyone to participate if you can. This will probably bring us towards the end of the session, just because of time, because it is nearly 10 to. yeah, I encourage everyone to take part. It should be fun. If you don't have any devices where you're able to connect onto the Kahoot, make sure that you are still participating, just doing it on by just trying to answer the questions either way. I'll put them on the screen. And hopefully by the end of the quiz, everyone should feel a bit more comfortable with angles and congruent triangles. So I'll wait a few minutes for more people to sign in, and then we'll get started. Okay. Perfect. So if you guys haven't managed to sign in, but you do want to sign in, the login pin will be at the bottom of the screen. I'm going to start the session now. So this is on angles and triangles. So what is angle X? If I turn that down. So using the properties that we went through today, what is angle X? Perfect. So yes, angle X is 112 degrees. So remember, if I show it again, here you have sort of like an F shape. You could draw an F there, and remember F is corresponding angles. So they are equal. Perfect. So if we go to the next part. Perfect. Well done, guys. So if we go to the next question, so angles around a point add up to 180 degrees. Is that true or is that false? Perfect. It is false. Angles around the point do not add up to 180 degrees. They add up to 360. So well done for everyone participating. So the next question, what is the angle X and give a reason? So first of all, what is angle X? And then what is the reason? Remember your specific words for this one. Perfect. So yes, remember it's vertically opposite angles and not just opposite. It's not enough to say just opposite. It was a vertically opposite angle. Cool. Perfect. So let's have a go at this one then. Why is the angle X 57 degrees? So what is the reason for this one then? Perfect. It is alternate angles. Remember your Z shape, there's sort of like a Z shape there. Z is alternate and alternate angles are equal. If you put corresponding angles, remember corresponding angles gives you your F shape, and for anyone who put alternate angles that add up to 180 degrees, that's not true. It's the co-interior ones which add up to 180. Alternate angles are equal. Cool. So let's have a go at this one. Angle X is 75 degrees because co-interior angles add up to 180. So check, is angle X 75 degrees? It might be, it might not be. Perfect. So angle X is 75 degrees and co-interior angles add up to 180. Cool. Well done, Jania, for getting 5 in a row. Perfect. Well done, everyone else, for participating and getting the questions right as well. So here we have triangle ABC and triangle LMN. They are congruent triangles. Angle B is equal to angle N. What is the length of MN? MN was 9.1. So let me show you. So here we have, if I move this quickly, here we have the length of one triangle here, 15.5. We have the other length here. They've given us our angle here and our angle here. Now, if we wanted to work out this length, MN, remember, this angle is between these two sides. So on the other triangle, this angle is between these two sides. So this length here is going to be this length, 9.1, not 9.9. So make sure you're matching your angles and your sides properly with the triangles, with the two triangles. Okay, so let's see and let's check out the leaderboard. Well done. Well done, everyone. So let's have a look at question 7. This is worth double the points. Which two triangles are congruent to triangle A? There are two triangles here which are congruent to triangle A. You have a minute to answer this one. So make sure you check it properly. So make sure you're matching your angles properly. You might have to work out another angle. Make sure you're matching your lengths correctly as well. It is D and C. So if we have a quick look at the answer. So here we've got our triangle A. And if we look at D, remember I said that you might need to work out another angle in the triangle. So here you would get 45 degrees. Now this length, 4.6, is between the angles 64 and 45 degrees. So D, you've got your length 4.6, which is between your angles 45 and 64 degrees. So this one is congruent because you've got two angles and a side. And the other one was C as well, because you would have 64 and 45 degrees, and your 4.6 would be between those two angles. So again, you have two angles and a side. So that would be ASA if you were to use the criteria. So well done for everyone who got that one correct. Cool. So because that was double the points, the leaderboard is shifted quite a bit. So let's have a look at question 8. State the condition why the two triangles A and B are congruent. So is it ASA, is it SSS, is it RHS, or is it SAS? Remember what each of those letters represent. Well done, it is SAS because you have two sides and one angle. So you should have two S's and one A. So SAS, perfect. Cool, so there's sort of battle between first and second place going on. So let's look at question number 9. So which is not a condition for congruent triangles? Is it ASA? Is it RHS? Is it AAA? Or is it SSS? Perfect. It is AAA. You cannot have three angles. You should not be using three angles to show that something is congruent, because it's not enough. So remember the last slide that I went through, do not use AAA. And the final question, perfect. The final question is question 10. Congruent triangles do not have to be identical in size. Is that true or is that false? So let's see. Perfect. It is false. Remember, congruent triangles have to be identical in size and in shape. They must always be identical in size and shape. So let's have a look at the podium. So in third place, we have Jack. Well done, Jack. Second place, we have the blue heart. Well done. And in first place, we have Jania. Well done, Jania. So well done to everyone. I'll turn this down a little bit. And well done to everyone, even the runners up, me and the hair. And perfect. So what we are going to do now is I am going to turn that off quickly. So hopefully everyone has understood everything that we've sort of gone through. If you do have any more really important questions, do ask them in the Q&A now, and I'll try and answer any important questions people have. So some of you are asking to do a Kahoot at the start and the end. Yeah, that can definitely, I'll definitely consider that. I don't know whether a Kahoot would be as important as doing a past paper exam question though. So if anyone does have any feedback on that, which one you would prefer, a Kahoot or which one would be more useful to you? I think a past paper question might be a little bit more useful. Okay, everyone wants Kahoot. Does anyone have any important questions about angles and congruent triangles? Anything which I can clear up before we finish the session? No one has any important questions? Okay, no problem, no worries. So we are coming up to 12 o'clock. So we are coming up to the end of the session. Someone did ask if they were able to get private tutoring. Yes, MyTutor, if you go onto the MyTutor website, you can look for tutors and find tutors who are amazing and will help you with maths or any other sort of subject you're interested in. There's tutors for everyone. Remember, this is recorded and it will be put onto the MyTutor YouTube channel, so make sure to go and look at it if you did miss anything or if you do want to go over everything that we went through today. There will be another session as well next week. I'm not too sure what it will be on, but we'll get back to you on that one as well. Yes, I personally do tutoring, so you can find me on the MyTutor page if you're interested in getting private tuition from me as well. And yeah, I hope that everyone has, if no one has any important questions based on what we did today, then I guess that will be it. And I hope all of you have a really good week, and I will see you guys next week. Right, bye guys.